Hey everybody, welcome back to Tomcat Zone for another episode of our ongoing battle of 7th Fleet, World War III. Um, we left off last video at the end of Action Segment 5, and the reason for that was because the log file ended there, and then the new log file picked up at Action Segment 6 of Game Turn 1 into Action Segments 1 and 2 in Game Turn 2. Well, the time between the two videos that I created here tonight and the one before, I found that the log file is corrupt, and although it does go through, you know it's going through actions, nothing is moving on the screen, so that doesn't help us any. So I'm just going to continue the battle here, but pick up at Action Segment 3 of Game Turn 2 with a little bit of a synopsis of what happened in the previous 3 actions there. So let's get right to it. Alright, we pick up, like I said here, in Action Segment 3, Game Turn 2. Okay, so what we know that happened at the end of Game Turn 1, Action Segment 6 was his surface units and their opportunity to move. He moved ships around the board here. Just going down real quickly to South China Sea, you'll see his carriers have moved north. He started moving out task forces from China, including patrol craft, and then Japanese ships and such were moving about. Over here, his task force 1 shifted away from the Sidorov to get away, but it is under a squall, so it is limited to the number of hexes it can move. It can only move 2 per round, so it's not getting that far that fast. Anyway, and then besides the action segment 6 of Game Turn 1, we went through action segments 1 and 2 of Game Turn 2. As you can see here, we both decided to use aircraft, and he went first. Scott got the initiative, and you will see that we collectively have moved a bunch of aircraft. He's gathered bombers and interceptors in China and has moved them all to a new location. Also moved some U.S. forces throughout Japan, and then I moved a group of aircraft here that I think just constitute some reconnaissance and some interceptors to a new base, 2738 for me, which happens to be right here. 2738. This airbase right here. Burevestnik needed some more air power there, so I moved aircraft off of the Far East borders over here, out of Sevastopol and all these areas over here. I think that's Sevastopol, Vladivostok, I should say, and then flew them up to have them positioned in 2738, which will give me a better avenue out to the Pacific Ocean. As we talked about before, the whole island of Japan is like a long combat air patrol, or air cover, I should say, and into South Korea. And the number of F-16s and F-15s, F-18s that are stationed on throughout Japan create a barrier that I can't penetrate. My Soviet fighters will not have the range to follow the bombers in, nor do I have a lot of bombers to make that a viable decision or a reasonable decision. To lose them over these air bases would be crazy. So my goal is to, as we discussed before, my goal is to hit either Komatsu or Hachino with cruise missiles, and at least by doing so create a gateway or a avenue out of the Sea of Japan, out of these Soviet air bases, to get out to the Northwest Pacific. If I can hit Hachino, that'll clear this whole corridor. Let me show you cap range. That'll clear that corridor there for me to fly bombers through. Understand it might not be for more than just a couple turns, but it gives me something. Same thing with Komatsu, I believe it was called Komatsu. If I can shut down this airbase, again, it would give me a corridor out to the Pacific Ocean. The reason I'm having to use cruise missiles is because I don't have the strength otherwise to penetrate these combat air patrols with these caps with inbound bombers. And you can only bomb bases. You can't hit them with air-to-surface missiles on as a value on the counter here. So that's anti-ship basically, or anti-surface vessels of any type. But otherwise, it's not possible. So that's the goal. Anyway, we did go through aircraft, and what we see here, let me bring up the way to determine what we've done here is I'm going to look at the first the kill pile. He launched his aircraft first, and you can see that in the Korean Peninsula, 1, 2, 3, all of his caps had an opportunity to attack, and my caps were sent home as he tried to bomb these bases in here. My caps were returned to base, but I also lost 2 North Korean MiG-23s. The good news is his bomber fleet here, as you can see, the F-15s took a hit. So even though they sent me home, I did get a piece of them. That's always a good thing. His Cap 1 attacks, Cap Attack 1s, I guess I should say, are, the flags are hanging on the bottom of the counters because they have made 1 attack this round. If they were to make a second attack or, jump some of my aircraft passing through their airspace, they would the cap attack flag would be increased by 1 to 2. But bottom line is what it does is it gives the combat air patrols a detriment to any new attacks, because the idea is ammunition and any other attrition, maybe fuel or whatever, has caused those combat air patrols to be a little bit weaker. So anyway, that's what he achieved here in the Korean territories. Knocked a couple of my MiGs out of the sky and ended up losing some F-15 strength there, which was great. The other thing he did do is he launched his aircraft off of his aircraft carriers here, and you will see too that I lost 2 destroyers. And these 2 destroyers here come from the Southern Fleet down here. Task Force 6, which was made up of 5 total destroyers to begin with. 2 of them are destroyed. 1 of them has been damaged, as you can see there in Task Force 6. So his bombers flew south, attacked me. The great news again here is, I will show you on his sheet. On his sheet here, on the Carl Vinson, as you can see, his A6s took hit. So that's a nice little perk there too, as well as his F-14s. So the cool thing is he flew a flight of F-14s and A6s down to attack my squadron here, Task Force 6. But the great thing is I had Cap 12 and maybe that was it, but let's see here. Cap 12, MiG-21s, value of 10, was able to jump his F-14 and cause it damage. So that was pretty great. I can say that I'll take that victory any day to damage A6 squadron as well as an F-14 Tomcat. So anyway, those are the things he achieved with his initial air maneuvers for our battle here. For me, it was bomber raids. Like I said, this peninsula here, North Korea, I've got bombers here, some L-28s they're called. They've got a 50 bombing strength, but the hard thing is I can't even take off without being jumped by his combat air patrol, because if I launch in a cap zone, his cap can intercept me. So with all my MiG-21s and MiG-23s sent RTB'd here, I have no air support for North Korea. So bottom line is these stacks of bombers here are just sitting idle. But up north in, as I said, Vladivostok and the surrounding air bases, I was able to launch bomber attacks. And those bombers flew north around the horn here of Hokkaido's combat air patrol. Basically, this 2439, the highest hex here in his area of influence for the cap, 1. So my bombers flew north and around this horn out to the Northwest Pacific here to attack Task Force 1. Again, it's in a squall zone. Squall zones do nothing against air, so which is great. So it slows him down to 2 hexes, but it does nothing to my air combat. So what you see here is his Task Force 1. Now it would be 3 raids. There would have been 2 Badger bomber raids, as well as a backfire bomber raid. And you can see that the Halliburton was hit, the Taylor was hit, and beautiful thing, let me bring it up, the Kootenay was destroyed, as well as the Roberts. So he lost 2 ships, and 2 ships were damaged. The whole goal here, if you guys are familiar with the rules, if I can get this thing down, it's now a task group. It's no longer a task force because there's only 3 warships in that group. If I can kill the Halliburton and the Taylor, he can't even constitute this as a task force, because, or as a group of ships, since they'd have to go into a single stack. But these convoys, these slow convoys 1, 2, and 3 are part of Task Force 1, and I want them dead, because there were 30 victory points to him. 0 victory points to me, but 30 victory points to him. So if I can kill them, I deny him 30 points of opportunity to beat me in the score. So killing the defenders of the slow convoys is great. They still got a long way to go, and they're underneath a squall for at least another turn, so they're only going to move 2 more hexes. So that's the cool thing. But that's what we did with those aircraft. So that was the end of Game Turn 1's Action Segment 6. Like I said, Scott moved his ships, and then with Action Segments 1 and 2 of Game Turn 2, we both took air actions. So that's kind of what I missed in the files there. So let's see what happens now that we're to action segment 3. All right, so let's see who gets initiative. And it was me. So the Soviets get initiative in action segment 3. We would have rolled it. We would have rolled it at the end of action segment 2, but because I typed first here, I know that I go first. The cool thing is, because we're typing, or I'm typing, I should say, I know this was a emailed log file. I shouldn't say email. We use Dropbox as a save location that both of us can activate the log files from. Excuse me. It's late at night here, guys. Sorry. Anyway, so sorry for the delay, I say. Sorry for the delay of this video as well. And sorry for yawning. Okay, so I activate surface. Oh, I don't know if we did talk about it before. The puffer was damaged in the previous video. He had attacked Task Force 1 with his ship, and he did hit the trivets, but I also returned an attack on the puffer, and she was damaged, which is cool. So we're going to see something here, I'm sure. So surface, and click. What's going on here? I'm seeing the wrong. All right, surface. So Task Force 3 starts its journey north. Task Force 3, right here, she has 3 slow convoy vessels with her. Task Force 4 has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 slow convoy vessels. I need to get these up to the Kamchatka Peninsula. My objective hex up there, I'll show you in a second, but if I can get these 8 ships up there, that's 10 points apiece. That's 80 victory points for me to get those ships to the north here at this marker. Now this is all drift ice, okay, and that's what this all these white little speckled hexes here, that all represents drift ice. If it were any other months, we rolled and we got July and August. If it were January or in boxes 1, 2, and 3, actually if it was 1, that drift ice is actually solid. But if it were 2 or 3, the drift ice would be there, which would mean my ships would have to go slower through those zones. 2 hexes at the maximum, I believe, is what it is. The great thing is when we rolled for time of year, it was July, which means the drift ice isn't there. It's no, gosh, I'm sorry guys, it's 1 o'clock here. It's no threat, and so it is ignored. Anyway, that's why you're seeing my ships move casually and quickly through these drift ice zones. All right, so we continue. We are playing without any kind of logistics, but we are using logistics ships in the game. I believe that it's an integral part of the game, even though you're not using logistics, because those ships would be part of a task force. They would make up, those auxiliary ships would make up the part of the task force. And when a surface, air-to-surface missile raid comes in, their radars might pick up those ships, and because of that, missiles might be directed to them instead of to the high-value targets. And that comes into play when you roll a 0 or a 9, and the defender gets to tell the attacker where all those missiles are going to hit. You can say, hey, I'm going to put them all right here to the Argon here, which is an oiler. It pisses off the other player, of course, but guess what? That's, to me, is realistic. Those ships would be there even no matter what in real life. So even if we're not using logistics, I think they're still a good part of the game to make it more realistic. So anyway, those ships move out of port to head towards Task Force 3 to join up with it. They're actually spreading around the ocean there, and or the Sea of Japan just kind of fanning out. PC3 moves up north to there. Task Force 4 moves there, and the PC3 joins that task force. Task Force 1 right over here. I will attack the puffer. 23 ASW value. My roll a 9. That is a hit, and the puffer is destroyed. So that's great. Right there is 7 points of value for a nuclear sub, which great points. Subs are always good points for scoring purposes. And he left her sitting right next to me, and so she's gone. That's cool. Task Force 1 then moves west towards the Soviet bastion. This red line here is called the Soviet bastion. I need to defend this against any Allied ships or submarines that might come in there, because if he has ships or subs within the Soviet bastion, as this is called, at the movement of any armistice marker, it constitutes victory points for him. So, moving Task Force 1 to defend that. Not that there's a big threat right now from anything Allied, but still, just because still kind of concerned. I don't want to send my surface forces south yet, because he's got some really great bomber and some anti-ship capabilities that the Soviets can handle. They got good air-to-air defense, but I should say surface-to-air defense, but it can be a risk. So I'm kind of keeping them under the protection of this combat air patrol plus my own over the carrier itself there. So, okay, to continue on here. Okay, I say that is my vaunted fleet. That is the whole strength of the Soviet Navy, those 3 task forces. Woohoo! Of course, I had this task force way down south here, this Task Force 6 it's actually a task group right now. Nothing to speak of there. And I say back to you. So that was the end of that log file. So let's bring up the next one. Alright, so we got the new map up here, and I'm sorry guys, I thought we did a good job at keeping the early log files here, but we seem to have really jumped around a bit here. And the funny thing is, when you look, the surface token here for the Allied forces went in action segment 3. My surface forces then went in action segment 4. And this log file is for, as you can see here, game turn 2 action segment 5 Soviets. So my subs. So, but something happened because we're rolling, and well, you'll just see what I'm talking about here. So the Chinese subs start moving. So yep, there go the American subs, the Chinese subs, all of his subs that are coming off the coast, and then he just moved a task force there. That was out of sorts. Okay, so the Springfield just moved up onto the Kazmakov or Kazmakov and hits her. Okay, ASW attack there. He rolled a 9, as you can see, and that hit the noisy ship right there. That's never good. We'll continue here. The ships are moving about. The New York moves, and he attacks the Sidorov and misses. Then the San Juan moves in. He attacks again. Nothing happens. Neither do I find him. Again, the Chinese subs are moving out. I'm going to bring up the turn marker here. Alright, and now into action segment 6 apparently. But we're seeing my subs moving now. I don't know what the hell's going on here, guys. I'm sorry. These log files just seem to be all out of sorts. So we're rolling for stuff and nothing is happening. I'm not seeing anything. It's not jumping to any places here. None of his task forces are damaged or destroyed. With all the dice moving up there, there's no new kills. This might just be a long series of boring videos here, log files. I might not need to. And there it is. There's the end of the log file. So, a lot of nothing there. Hold on a second. So that shows the end of game turn 2. And we are going into the first night turn, game turn 3. And that really is the end of this video. Truthfully, I'm not sure I will be posting it because I don't see much activity in there that keeps anybody's attention, especially when I'm yawning at my end myself here. So anyway, whether I'd see you and talk to you in this video or if I create a new one beyond game turn 2, I will have it up on YouTube here soon. So thanks for watching.